everybody, this is Afro Sushi from Afro Sushi Reviews and Rankings. Welcome back to another video, and welcome to my very first ranking video ever. A ranking that I will be doing in particular will be nothing but the Toy Story franchise. Before we get into the rankings, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, turn on the notifications, hit the little bell icon next to it if you want to get more content like this. With that said, let's get to the video. So, Toy Story. This needs no introduction other than the fact that it is one of, if not my personal favorite anime movie franchises of all time. I believe this was one of the first movies that I have seen on VHS, you know, when I was introduced to Pixar and everything like that. And over like the past 2 decades, like Toy Story has made nothing but an impact on pop culture. Just to commemorate this, I will be ranking all 6 of the Toy Story movies that I have seen. I should note that none of these movies that I have seen are like bad, you know. I will be ranking ones that are, you know, weaker, ones to what I think is the best of the best. So with that said, let's get to the rankings. So starting off in last place at the number 6 spot will be Lightyear. Despite this being the newest movie that came out this year, this is so far my least favorite installment in the entire franchise. Now I've already left a review of it. I'll leave it in the description or somewhere in this video. That way you can go check it out because I go more into detail over there. So this is by far one of the most disappointing animated movies that I have seen this year, just because of how this movie felt like it had an identity crisis in terms of what it really wanted to be. This movie felt like it wanted to be like other space movies such as 2001: A Space Odyssey or Interstellar. And not just that, when it comes to the storytelling, I feel like the climax third act plot twist, especially with Zurg, that was also something that just fell apart so badly to the point where it actually really hurt the quality of the movie for me. And I really wanted to walk out here saying that this was like the greatest anime movie that I have seen. But as far as I'm concerned, The Bad Guys is right now the best anime movie that we got. Unfortunately, this is one of those movies where I really cannot recommend you go rush to the theaters to go see it and just wait until you can stream it, because honestly, there's just really not too much that you can gain in terms of entertainment and everything like that. So, not bad, but just so weak, man. And there's a reason why this is not doing well at the box office as of the recording of this video. And here in the number 5 spot is going to be Toy Story 4. Now, I just want to make a note here that I may be in a minority here, but I actually don't think Toy Story 4 is like a 10 out of 10 movie. I would say this is one of the more overhyped anime movies that I have seen, since like elements of it could have been a lot better. However, let me just say this. I do think that Toy Story 4 is a thoroughly enjoyable movie. I mean, I will say this. I do really like Bo Peep's character arc and how she actually became an interesting standalone character throughout. I also still think the cast of characters, the toy characters, are definitely like really funny. And I'll admit, the animation is definitely like absolutely amazing and really goes to show how far Pixar has come, how each and every time they always improve in the animation quality. And even with me saying that this is an enjoyable movie, it is still weighed down by a grocery list of problems, such as the villain being very weak and not as intriguing compared to other characters like Lotso or Stinky Pete or Sid, etc. Compared to the previous Toy Story movies, there is like relatively low stakes. You don't really get that feeling, that sensation of there's like very high stakes. Buzz being a dumbass throughout the movie, that's another thing I really do not appreciate, and how like he just came across as a bumbling buffoon. Those are the factors that make me not love Toy Story 4, even though I really wanted to love it. But I mean, like I said, not a bad movie, certainly way better than Lightyear. And dropping into the number 4 spot is going to be Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. And yes, I decided to include this on the list because I still think it's a part of Toy Story that, you know, everyone needs to know about. So I briefly mentioned this movie in my Lightyear review as well, and when looking back and rewatching this movie, I actually have a ton of appreciation for how this feels more like a fully realized Buzz Lightyear spin-off that actually feels very integral to the Toy Story universe. So absolutely fleshed out universe revolving around Buzz Lightyear and Space Rangers and everything like that. And I would say my only complaint is that since it's only 70 minutes long, I really wanted to see more of this movie. And that's how good you are when you crave more of this. And thankfully we got an animated series out of it. Like I said, even though it's a direct-to-DVD anime movie, I still think it holds up so well. I will just ask Disney for one thing. Please put this movie on fucking Disney Plus. Please. So here are my number 3. This was a tough choice to make, but I have to put Toy Story 1. I absolutely just love the original Toy Story. Yes, I know, we can poke fun of its like dated animation and how it's also become a meme sometimes, but aside from those elements, I still think that it's really impressive at how movies like this came out in 1995. The movie on its own is still watchable, still tons of fun, and still just a classic that you could just like go back and rewatch again and again and again and again. This is the movie that pioneered the Toy Story franchise, and not just that, but made Pixar the king of animation at one point. And no matter what people say about it, I will still always cherish this as like one of my best childhood anime movies that I remember like seeing on VHS, then DVD, and then now you can stream that shit. It's crazy. I consider Toy Story, the original, to be an absolute masterpiece in terms of how they executed Woody and Buzz's like dynamic or the relationship. The main villain, Sid, who's still very, very memorable to this day. And also sometimes this movie is quotable as hell. You're a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity. And you know what? Now that I think about it, maybe I should do some standalone reviews of the Toy Story movies. Let me know in the comments if you actually want to see those. I got nothing else to say other than I just think it's so goddamn impressive, and I still label it as one of my all-time favorite masterpieces ever. And here in the number 2 spot is going to be Toy Story 3. Now, I'm not sure if this is an unpopular opinion, given that many people like to lump the first and second movie together as the best Toy Story movies of all time. I absolutely just love this movie. I will always cherish this movie. Like, I remember seeing this at theaters when I was like transitioning to junior high. Nowadays when I watch this really hits different, especially that arc where Andy has to go to college. And what's funny is I'm in college, so like I can relate. I would argue that this is one of the more rewatchable Toy Story movies. I mean, again, the animation is fantastic, but I also just love how, especially we can take a story about making something as mundane like a daycare center be a nightmare for the toys point of view. And you have Lotso, who I think you cannot deny one of the greatest villains throughout the entirety of the movie, and his backstory as well. Everything about this movie is something I will always like cherish, because I remember like I've had the toys, some action figures, and even played the video game on the PS3. I have lots of fond memories with this movie, and when going back and rewatching it, I still cannot stress on how this was the time when Pixar peaked. I love Toy Story 3 with all my heart, and I will always rewatch it. And finally, we made it to number 1, and if you haven't done the process of elimination, it's Toy Story 2. As much as I love 3, in my subjective opinion, 2 is objectively the best Toy Story movie that we have ever gotten. This is one of the best examples of how to properly do a sequel that can flesh everything out in the Toy Story universe, especially when you give characters like Woody or Buzz or Jessie, Bullseye, every single cast of characters. They're either funny, they're memorable, they have like so much more depth to them. And it's really interesting how like in this movie, this is like the moment when you can take something like toys and give them emotion. And that's pretty much like what Pixar can do with like almost anything, even inanimate objects. But I always go back and like rewatch this no matter like the mood. I can feel sad, I can feel let down, I can feel angry, but when I put this movie on, it puts a smile on my face, really. Like, I could go on and on and on and just like gush about this movie and everything like that, but God, I want to do a review of this one so badly, but we'll see, but yeah. So as of right now, yeah, Toy Story 2 is my personal all-time best Toy Story movie ever. And with that said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed my rankings video. If you want to see more stuff like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and turn on notifications. And I'll leave off with this question. What is your personal favorite Toy Story movie ever? If you want to leave your own rankings down and maybe explain what's your favorite or least favorite, feel free to do so. And stay tuned. I do have more reviews for movies and TV shows planned and everything like that. With that said, you guys have a wonderful cartoony day.